This is for the nerds, this is for the brainiacs, this what we deserve. Go ahead and play it, man, I know it, I know.
But Poker Out Loud. Bro, you have known this since we first met. I believe that this is the most innovative and entertaining poker content out there. Not just from a training standpoint, but also entertainment standpoint.
Yeah.
So it might have been a while since you've actually talked about this, but with this season now starting and you got something really cool going on with vloggers, I want you to kind of reiterate, and I'm putting you on the spot, your why behind why you started this program. Because like I said, I think it's the most innovative, entertaining piece of content that this poker industry has to offer now.
Yeah. I mean, to me, this is just like a no-brainer. You guys are getting to see a little insight of some of the footage from this current season. It's me versus the young guns. So I was the oldest by almost double at the table. Lynn was the second oldest by 2 years at the ripe young age of 23.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
So you're 39.
Yeah.
I'm 40.
Yeah.
And you were playing against
Lynn, who is 23, Chris, who's 22, Jeremiah is 21, and Landon's 20.
the old time reg, man. Doesn't feel like it though,
reg.
does it?
No, it's painful. But yeah, I mean, to me, like, this concept is just an absolute no-brainer. For what it's worth, like, it had been done before, which I didn't even realize until after we already put out our first iteration of it. But Daniel did this for his previous site, which was Full Contact Poker.
Mm-hmm.
They did a couple of episodes of this. Obviously, like, nothing's going to compare to our production. I don't mean to toot our own horn, but, like, Pigtails is just the fucking best at this. They've really nailed it. And if anybody wants to disagree, please leave a comment below and tell me why I'm wrong. But
It's movie TV quality.
yeah, it really is. And like,
You've invested a lot of time and resources.
that's why I just think like this is a no-brainer, right? So like, don't get me wrong. I think that like it gets misconstrued often. I think there's a lot of pushback and criticism, and some of it's valid, but I also think like some of it is missing the forest for the trees, right? People will say like, oh, well, you can't just watch these guys firing it off or doing something that's very like we put out a highlight reel a few weeks ago where it was like the best bluffs, and there was a hand where like Nick and I were just like leveling one another, right? We both took hands that had no business being aggressive and put in multiple bets
I
on the
watched
street.
that.
Yeah, and it's not that either of us are bad. It's not even that either of us are strategically unsound. It's just that we have so much experience with one another. We both were straying off into portions of the game tree that are relatively low frequency, right? And that shit happens. That's fine. You'll observe that in real life all the time. The difference is you actually get to hear why in real time we did what we did, right? You could poke holes in what's wrong with it, or you can agree with the things that were right. But at the end of the day, like, you don't have to guess what was going through anyone's mind whenever they were doing what they were doing. So we have 2 seasons, right? We have one we're putting on YouTube for free for everybody to watch. It's the vlogger season. There's definitely gonna be spots where they're just confused, and that's fine.
That's poker.
None of them proclaim to be the greatest players on earth. Like they're gonna back themselves into a corner sometimes, and it's awkward when you have to talk your way through that, right? Because you don't just get to do something. You don't get to flip a coin in your head and say like feels like a call or feels like a fold. You actually have to come up with some sort of rational rhyme or reason behind it. And that's fucking hard, especially if you don't necessarily have one.
I would never want to do it. I would look like a complete idiot. Like I give so much props to the people that actually want to do this because they're opening themselves up to criticism, because we all know about, you know, the trolling nature of today.
For sure.
Right, which I know we'll talk
Armchair
about a little bit
quarterbacking
later.
is just like the laziest form of criticism.
But at the same time, it's like, I'll be damned if you're a poker player watching that and that same shit hasn't gone through your head.
Right.
And how great of the people on Poker Out Loud to be able to say, I'm confused. I got to figure this out. Let me talk through it. Like, that should be commended, not trolled.
Or
not saying it is.
Or at least it should be acknowledged.
Acknowledged. That's the word.
Everybody
Acknowledged.
does it. Right?
Everyone.
But I guess like the whole thing I'm trying to get at is this is just an evolution of high stakes poker and an evolution of poker after dark. Anybody who's watching live cash games for the entertainment value, for learning, or anything in between, this just adds the nuance of actually knowing what the fuck the player is thinking when they do it, right? Like, so many people love to watch high stakes poker, and then have that water cooler talk back and forth of like, oh, did you see Doug's fold versus Helmuth? Or why would Helmuth ever shove for, 60 times the pot? He's the fucking worst and blah, blah, and everything else. And it's like, that's great for the community. Now imagine if you actually got to hear the reasoning behind Helmuth's shove, right? Now your criticism is very likely to be warranted because you can hear all of the bad rationalizations behind why he's about to do what he's about to do. And on top of that, then you get to hear all of the skillful analysis from Doug's perspective as to why folding the second nuts in this particular instance is the smart thing to do when theory would dictate otherwise.
This is a form of what we were talking about earlier. It's innovative, it's intuitive, it gets people to understand poker at a different level. Even if you don't know poker and you sit back and watch that, it's captivating. People will sit back and say, I had no idea that much thought went into a poker hand.
Yeah.
And it's going to spur curiosity. And then maybe they go buy a book about it. Maybe they do some research online about it. But it's like, that's the stuff I'm talking about. Like, Poker Out Loud, I feel like of everything in this industry right now, is one of those things that could be put on the mainstream and actually, because of curiosity, because of raising the level of credibility, because of showing people that these are extremely smart, intelligent players playing this game that think through things in a way you could never imagine, could elevate the perception of the industry outside the industry.
And the most important part of it, in my opinion anyway, is that it's real time. You don't have the chance to have 20/20 vision, right? Like you don't get to have hindsight here. You get to have hindsight afterwards and say like, oh, well, maybe that was a mistake. And perhaps like I should go back and look at that. That should be what triggers people of like, hey, I'm watching something special here. Like not only do I get the entertainment value of poker, but what I really should be identifying is people are fucked up in the way they think. Essentially, what I hope happens is that this catches enough of a wave where we're turning people away, right? Like curating a lineup isn't that difficult anymore. We get some pretty high level thinkers who are willing to come battle it out for a couple days and kind of like leave it all out there on the felt.
That's right.
That's, going back to the original conversation of like building characters and getting rooting interest for people.
Yeah.
It's a great way to go about it.
It's a phenomenal way. And especially as you bring on the vloggers who do so much for the community, yet haven't really been highlighted in the way you're highlighting them. I think it's great for the vlogger community. I think it's great for your brand. And I think it's great for the industry as a whole.